Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. In the last part we accessed Agrabah after cleaning up some side quest stuff, and now it's time for us to access the desert. So of course, last time we freed Carpet from underneath a cabinet in Aladdin's house, and if you didn't do that, well you couldn't do this. Wants us to come along. Let's go! Good news, we found Aladdin. Bad news, he's surrounded by a metric shitload of bandit heartless, and you do need to fight them all. On proud mode, this can actually be a really rough fight because the dashing spin that the bandits can do can really blindside you, but on normal mode, it's not too bad. Since there's not much new here otherwise, though, let's go back to talking about more voice actors. We talked about Iago's English voice last time, Gilbert Gottfried, but in Japanese, Iago is voiced by Akiya Kamiya. He's been doing voice work since the early 70s with notable roles across his career being Ryoma in the Genrobo franchise, Shutaro in Urusei Yatsura, Garlic Jr. in Dragon Ball Z, Kokoro Mori in Detective Conan, Ryo Saiba in City Hunter, but probably his most famous role and funniest to imagine in contrast with Iago is being the original voice of Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star.
Gosh, not again! Genie, get rid of these guys!
Wish number one coming right up!
I see. Thanks, Sora.
Aladdin, what are you doing out here?
Same old stuff, hunting legendary treasure. Just paid a visit to the Cave of Wonders. I found that magic carpet. And this lamp. Legend has it that whoever holds the lamp can summon...
Please, kid, leave the intros to a professional. The one and only Genie of the Lamp! Rub-a-dub-dub the lamp and have your dearest wishes granted. Today's winner is Aladdin! Congratulations!
Aladdin wish!
Patience, my fine feathered friend. Any 3 wishes. Oh, 1 wish, a 2 wish, a 3 wish. Then I make like a banana and steal it. Our lucky winner made his first wish.
And let me tell you what a doozy that wish was.
So he has 2 left. So, Master, what'll you have for wish number 2?
How about making me a fabulously wealthy prince?
Whoa! Money, royalty, fame! Why didn't I do that? Okay, you asked for it. 100 servants and 100 camels loaded with gold. Just say the word and I'll deliver it in 30 minutes or less, or your meal's free! Hey, I'll even throw in a cappuccino.
No thanks.
Okay.
I think I'll put that on hold until we reach Agrabah.
Oh, why a prince?
You see, there's this girl in Agrabah named Jasmine. But she's a princess, and she could never fall for a guy like me.
Oh, princess?
Jasmine?
Oh, that's right. She's in trouble, Aladdin.
What? Well, come on, let's get going.
And thus Aladdin joins our party. I'll talk about his abilities later though, because unlike Tarzan, he's required to use for progress.
Fresh air, the great outdoors.
I guess you don't get out much, huh?
Comes with a job. Phenomenal cosmic powers, itty-bitty living space. It's always 3 wishes, then back to my portable prison. I'm lucky to see the light of day every century or 2.
Say, Genie, what if I use my last wish to free you from the lamp? What do you think?
You do that?
Genie, it's a promise. After we help Jasmine.
So immediately upon re-entering Agrabah, we actively get faced with new Heartless immediately. These are fat bandits. While they are ultimately reskins of large bodies visually, they only actively share one attack with them, which is the double arm swing around them. In comparison to large bodies, fat bandits are long-range fighters, specializes in breathing fire on you. There's 2 variants of that. Whenever they shoot 3 fireballs quickly at you, which can be parried back with defensive techniques for tech points, damage, and ultimately stunning them for a few moments. Meanwhile, their other fire breath is indicated when they take a deep breath in, as they're going to do a continuous short-range flamethrower attack out of their mouth, which is actively only blockable by Goofy's shields, because that's even an entire element I haven't talked about yet. While there's the whole deal with the behind-the-scenes recoil stat I've mentioned here and again, especially in the post-script edits I've done up to now, there's an entire section of attacks that can also only be blocked by Goofy's shields specifically. Which is neat, and admittedly a reason to keep Goofy in over Donald in some cases, in the case you like a Disney World's exclusive party member, for instance, like Aladdin. But honestly, it seldom comes up in my own experience. If anything, it was probably something they added to make him play more like a tank in combat for when you're not fighting the same target and things like that. Neat, but not exactly something you can really game outside of maybe very specific setups. So now that we've actively rescued Aladdin and returned to Agrabah, a notable shift has happened here. Specifically, there's wood planks blocking every single door on the floor level of the city. So that means in order to actively reach our destination, we need to platform along the rooftops, which is why I went out of the way to also unlock all the locks I did last time, specifically the one in this room where we first met Jasmine and Jafar, as well as the one in Aladdin's house. With that said, you don't need to open those until this point anyway, so you could theoretically have waited on those, although I myself personally never really do. Due to that, our current goal is to find the 3rd lock in Agrabah in order to actually open up the way towards where the Royal Palace is here in Agrabah. And we actively have seen the door that leads to that lock before. It's the one just over here to the side of Aladdin's house that the Mega Ether was in front of last time. Welcome to the Bazaar. And I got really lucky on this run because we actually have a new Heartless here, Black Fungi. These guys are a rare spawn here. Normally you're going to run into mostly just some bandits again on top of some pot spiders. Black Fungi have 2 attacks, but 3 actions, technically. Their sole physical attack is to slowly stroll up to you and just kind of lean in towards you and slap, which isn't too bad. Their main attack, though, is to squish themselves down to the floor, sending out a poison mist that can inflict the relatively rare poison status on you, which does damage over time. Their 3rd action is to turn themselves into stone, which doesn't prevent them from moving, but does make them invulnerable to damage. Speaking of which, they have deceptive HP bars. I say deceptive because while the HP bar of a black fungus looks and is ultimately small, their defenses more than make up for it. Any damage you inflict upon one of them that's not tied to a spell from the gravity magic line will default to doing only 1 hit point of damage. So while they may only have like 9 HP or something like that, that's 9 individual hits that you need to keep in mind across usually 3 or 4 of them at a time. They're one of the reasons why I'd say it's really worth always having gravity on a shortcut, even though I myself haven't actually done that yet, and I do later on. Right, there's the fire ring, by the way, that boosts the equipped person's defense by 1, but also makes them take 20% less damage from fire-based attacks. Worth noting though, black funguses, like their white mushroom cousins, do drop mystery goos here and again, and I think it gets more likely if you finish them off with a combo finisher. But they can also very rarely drop the mystery fungus item that doesn't serve a synthesis purpose. It's entirely for selling, and I want to say it's sold for like the max amount of money a single item could sell for in the original game, but I think they got nerfed here in Final Mix. So Jafar is after Jasmine in this keyhole. Keyhole, eh? I could swear I've heard about that somewhere before. Really? Where? Now, where was it? It's only been 200 years. Well, anyway, we've got to stop Jafar before it's too late. They give you access to the save point here in Aladdin's house. Use it, because especially on our first playthrough, what's coming up can be kind of rough, as well as on Proud Mode, which I really should just stop saying, because I've said it so often it might as well be like the catchphrase of the LP. Get this, the hard mode of this game is hard.
Setting your sights a little high, aren't you, boy? Back to your hole, street rat. I will not allow you to trouble the princess anymore.
Jasmine!
I'm so sorry, Aladdin.
Genie, help Jasmine, please.
1 wish left. You're making this really easy, you know?
So sorry, boy. I'm afraid your second wish has been denied.
Huh?
I'm sorry, Al.
And now, I bid you all farewell. Attack!
Bit of a weird mini-boss here is the Pot Centipede that's made up of several pot spiders alongside a new head and tail. Generally speaking, I'd say your first destination here should actually be to take out all the pot spiders, so you're just left with the tail and head to contend with, though. Just keep in mind if you do decide to do that strategy, when the Centipede runs out of pot spiders in one area, it'll bowl through the fencing we can see over there on the left, keeping you in one sector of Agrabah to go down to the next one, and then the next one until it runs out of the city to be in, being at the city's front gate. Takes a while, but honestly not too bad for extra EXP from the pot spiders. In terms of attacks, most of what the Centipede does is tied to its head. It can bite at you, it can electrify its antenna and swing them at you directly, it can also spin around in a circle to try and attack you and ram into you that way. The tail, on the other hand, I think can light up the tip of its stinger and do some sort of attack, but I seldom ever see it do that. As you can see, Sonic Blade makes pretty quick work of it alongside the pot spiders, but if you're on Proud Mode, that fight is a mobbing nightmare.
Jasmine! To the desert! Come on, let's move!
With the princess now lost, our goal is to once again head into the desert and continue from there. With that said, there's a couple of things we can show off for the first time here in Agrabah at this point. With that said, let's quickly talk about the Ray of Light accessory I just got. That's a really good one that can honestly last you up until some of the last worlds of the game. Equipping that to someone boosts their HP by 3 and their MP by 1, which if you like using magic like I do, goes a long way to keep you in the game with it longer. While I'm on the way to our next general destination, I do want to talk about voice actors again. Specifically, let's talk about Aladdin's. Aladdin's VA in this game is Scott Winger, who is actually just Aladdin's voice, period. He voiced him in the movie, and he voiced him in every appearance of the character pretty much after that. Outside of that, he hasn't done too much in voice work, though. Most of his acting credits were tied to either The Family Man back in 1990, or as a series regular, Steve Hale in the latter half of Full House's run, even returning as the character in Fuller House for a majority of that series' run as well. Aladdin's Japanese voice actor, though, is yet another A-lister who's been in everything under the sun, Shinichiro Miki. He's been Akira in Virtua Fighter, Sagat in Street Fighter, James in Pokemon, Pedro in One Piece, Geats in Mega Man Legends 2, on top of a couple of other Mega Man roles, actually. Urahara in Bleach, the Dillandi Brothers in Gundam 00, Randy Orlando in Trails, Zenkichi in Persona 5 Strikers, Zamasu in Dragon Ball Super, and he's also the voice of Roy Mustang, starting from Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood's original airing. So the main thing I want to still hit up here in Agrabah is actually back at the palace gates, but it's an area we can only reach by actively coming up here from the rooftops because we need to jump on these little wooden platforms. This allows us to reach this treasure chest over here. But also, I got lucky upon entering the room this time around, because you may have noticed there were a bunch of pots on the floor. This is another Kingdom Hearts Final Mix exclusive, Heartless. And thus, it's one you're going to need to fight several times in order to get synthesis materials for endgame synthesis stuff. Similarly to the Black Ballad back at Deep Jungle, though, there is a minigame also tied to this Heartless, and if you play the minigame just right, you could actively get multiple of the item in question, assuming you get lucky. Specifically, it's tied to all these extra pots on the floor. The Heartless in question is actively hiding in one of these pots, and you can tell which one it is and which one it isn't by running into them. If the pot moves, it's a real pot and you can smash it for some money and tech points. If the pot doesn't move, that's the Heartless. If you destroy all the real pots before triggering the fight against the Heartless, not only do you get a good boon of tech points and money, but there's about a 10% base chance that the Mithril Stone the enemy can drop will drop then as well. Otherwise, when fighting the enemy itself, there's a 20% chance the enemy will just drop it by default, and a 35% chance the enemy will drop it if you defeat them after destroying all the pots. Not guaranteed even with drop rate boosting items later on, but pretty close to guaranteed by that point. This is the Pot Scorpion, and we are going to fight at this part, but I'm actually going to go restock at the save point really quick before I actually do so, because I want to make sure I'm actually ready for this fight, because this is pretty rough, especially if you're using shorter keyblades or certain things like that. In the meanwhile, let's talk about the genie's voices. So, in English, he's voiced by Dan Castellaneta, who's easily most famous for being the voice of Homer Simpson alongside several other Simpsons characters, but I have a soft spot for him as Grandpa Phil in Hey Arnold. He's also the Robot Devil in Futurama, the Postman in All of the Other Reindeer, and the ventriloquist in Scarface in the early 2000s, the Batman animated series. He also voiced Genie in Return of Jafar as well as the Aladdin animated series, but that's also partially due to a very well-known and well-documented spat between Robin Williams, who originally voiced Genie, and Disney over how the original Aladdin movie was marketed. I won't go into super detail, just know that Disney broke an agreement and ultimately Robin did the right thing. I'm honestly kind of surprised he even came back at all for the third Aladdin film, honestly. Meanwhile, in Japanese, Genie is voiced by Koichi Yamadera, who we've already talked about in this LP, even though I think I did it through postscript edits rather than the actual commentary. He's also the voice of Donald in Japanese. So the Pot Scorpion is a fight I am really not ready for, but showing off anyway, but because it took long enough, I'm speeding it up. The way this fight works is that in order to damage the Scorpion at all, you need to interrupt its physical attacks with your own or with guards, flipping it onto its back and stunning it. You can theoretically do that to it on any of its attacks, but you're really meant to do it either during the little rush it does towards you where it clasps its grippers a little bit and then dashes towards you, or the attack it gains later on in its health bar where it powers up its stinger with the venom it shoots out and does multiple stabs forward with it, which can be a really nasty hit on Proud Mode. Otherwise, the Pot Scorpion largely relies on its venom to lay traps around the arena that will damage you upon stepping into them. Early on, it'll either just shoot out some at random in an area around it, or if you actively hit it enough times, it'll just spew some out as a counterattack. Or towards the latter half of its health, it can also erupt venom out of its back, shooting it high up into the sky, where it will then randomly rain down upon the arena. This enemy is fast, frantic, and frankly, does a lot of damage at this point in the game, as you can see, based on how Donald and Goofy spent a lot of that fight down on the ground. So I really don't recommend taking care of this until later, but I figured I might as well show it off now. If I didn't speed that up, we would have been there for almost 6 minutes, I want to say. But that's my duty in Agrabah as a city done, so let's finally head back to the desert and see what shows up over here. The tiger head is being controlled by the Heartless. Crush the power of darkness. Welcome to one of the walls for a lot of people growing up, the Cave of Wonders mini-boss. The way this works is that we need to reduce the health of both of the Cave of Wonders' eyes to 0, but doing that is easier said than done, as you either need to make a really awkward jump to get up there by waiting for the Cave of Wonders to leave its neck down, or you need to reflect the lasers it shoots into you like the stealth sneak into it with a well-placed Keyblade Strike or with Guard. I personally prefer to do the jumping strategy, if only because once I get up here I can get more damage done in a shorter amount of time, but getting back up is definitely a nightmare, especially considering a lot of this fight also spawns in a shitload of bandits to try and upset you from being up there. Otherwise, the Cave of Wonders has 2 attacks. It can do a physical attack with its jaw by swinging its head around violently, or it can dig its head into the sand and eat a bunch of it, and when it emerges, it'll breathe it back out as effectively a fire breath attack. Thankfully, you're safe from those 2 attacks I just mentioned as long as you're on top of the head. At that point, it's only the Bandit Heartless who will try to knock you out of things, or the occasional eye laser from the Cave of Wonders itself that might hit you. This fight is rough, but it's not exactly hard per se. It's more tedious and especially more awkward. If it's not a bandit coming up from behind you, knocking you off the snout of the cave, it's the wild jerking animations throwing you off the head as it is, and then you have to climb back up awkwardly to try again. It's not super often the semi-clunky platforming makes a boss in this game feel bad, but this is probably one of the most famous cases in the game, outside of maybe Trickmaster at large. Similarly to the first set of worlds, you can do this set of worlds in any order you wish, and if there's a reason to do Agrabah even a single world later, it's to have some extra stats going into this fight just to make it go by a little bit faster in my eyes. While we whittle this cave down, let's talk about some more voice actors. Jasmine in this world is voiced in English by Linda Larkin, who's been the voice of the character since the original movie and has been brought back in most cases to voice her whenever she shows up in something. Outside of voice work, she was in some sparse episodes of sitcoms and dramas, like an episode of the short-lived Ferris Bueller Show, Doogie Howser MD, and Murder, She Wrote. In Japanese, though, Jasmine is voiced by Kaori Aso, who also voiced Roxanne in the Japanese audio track for a Goofy movie, Odette in the second Swan Princess movie. They're the voice of Tikal in Sonic Adventure, as well as the arc of Sonic X covering that game's plot, and she's also the original Japanese voice for Blossom in the original Powerpuff Girls show and movie Combo. And since we've seen and heard from her several times now, we might as well also talk about Maleficent. Maleficent is voiced in English here by Suzanne Blakesley, who is probably most famous for voicing Wanda in Fairly Odd Parents. She's also Lady Tremaine in the Cinderella sequels, Cruella de Vil whenever she's popped into something the past few decades, Valeriana in Amphibia, Gaia in God of War 3, and Professor Hamilton in the Calvard arc in Trails. In Japanese, meanwhile, Maleficent is voiced by Toshiko Sawada, who started voicing the character in the Japanese dub of the original Sleeping Beauty film. She's also Kamaria Rei in the original Mobile Suit Gundam, the Japanese dub voice of Fiona's mother in Shrek 2 Beyond, as well as Mayumi Matsushita in I, The Somnium Files, alongside a couple of other roles. This fight's kind of neat in concept, but it's just very off and rough feeling in execution, and not for nothing, and that's something they very much figured out how to do well by the time of Kingdom Hearts 2. Because whenever there's a fight that's something like this in 2, the reaction commands they add in go a long way to make that more playable. Right there, Sora hit level 24 and learned Lucky Strike. That's the ability I talked about earlier that actively boosts the drop rates of items. From my memory of research already doing postscript edits, I believe just having one of those on increases the drop rate of an item by about 50% from its base value, and then it just stacks further and further as you get more of it on other characters, up to 2.5 times more likely. So if an item drops 10% of the time, with max Lucky Strikes, it will drop 25% of the time. There goes the Cave of Wonders. We don't even get a cutscene for actively beating it. It just kind of fades in, and you can jump into it and access the actual Cave of Wonders part of the world at large. So I got Lucky Strike there at level 24 because I chose the Dream Shield route, of course. If you chose the Dream Sword, that's actively when you would unlock the Guard ability, which, decently late in, but better late than never, I suppose. Meanwhile, if you were using the Dream Rod route, you would get Air Combo Plus there, which boosts the amount of hits you can do in a row in midair. I tend to prefer Air Combo Pluses to Combo Pluses, but if memory serves, I don't really use either in this playthrough too much, just to get combo finishers out a little more quickly. Rather fittingly to the location, given what it's structured like in the movie, the Cave of Wonders is a gigantic puzzle area that has a lot of little layers going on when it comes to getting treasure chests or even finding secret pathways. For instance, there's a pit off to the side of this room, while in a lot of other games that would just be a death pit that voids you out and makes you take damage or just otherwise would instantly kill you. That'll actively take you to another area here, and it's very easy to get knocked down there by enemies here, by the boulders rolling around, or by your own attacks in the case you're being a little too reckless about where you're placing yourself. With that said, I gotta be a little specific here because I'm going for as many items as I can on my first run here. With that said, there's some items we can't get until later, like that treasure chest over there. Though there's probably some very bizarrely precise jump you can use to get that now, maybe. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 15, we're going to venture through the rest of the Cave of Wonders and finish off our time in Agrabah for now in the process. See you guys then.